Says we are live.
Yeah. I was just going to try something quickly.
Yes, we're live now. We got people logging in.
Okay, I see that.
So, welcome guys to tonight's webinar.
Hello,
Just
everyone.
about 7 minutes to start. Good to see that we have people logging in now, which is quite encouraging for the presenter.
Hello, Gabby. All the way from Austria. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Got about 7 minutes till we start, I think. Hello, Angela in Romania. Nice showing from Europe this evening. Yeah, I think this series of webinars that District 91 are putting on is pretty inspired. I think it's awesome, actually. Hello to Danny Banks in Leicester, District 71, where we all started from in Southern UK as well. In fact, I think the club I first joined is still a member of District 71.
Yes, if you can just keep typing your name and perhaps where you're from, that will just help us to connect with you a little bit. My name is Wale. I'm the presenter. I'm your host tonight, District 91 of the District 91 webinar series, and presenting tonight is Barry O'Connell, who's one of our area directors. Angela from
Hello, Angela.
Roberta
in Denmark. Wow, hello.
Yeah, we've got just about 5 minutes to start. It's good to have you guys with us tonight.
Oh, Andy. Good evening, Andy. Hello. And to Jay from London as well. I wonder if that's the Jay who used to be a member of my club in Canary Wharf. And hello to Yulia. I hope I've got that name right, in Poland. That Jay is the Jay who used to be a member. Good to see you on here this evening, Jay.
Good to see you, Andy. Got just about 3 minutes before we start off this evening's webinar, which is 4 simple principles to increase engagement and grow members. It's pretty much about growing your clubs. And presenting tonight is Barry O'Connell. My name is Wale Oshosami. I'm the club, work with the club growth director, District 91, Florian Bay, as his club extension lead.
I must say, it's nice to see people's names in the chat window. I tend to be very bad with names. What with your names being there in black and white for me this evening, I should remember them, but I'm sorry, I probably won't remember where you're from, and it's not personal.
Now that the scene names, maybe we can see your face, Barry, if that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Let me turn off my... Right, there we go. Good evening.
Good stuff.
Just checking I can see everything. I've made a special effort. Anybody who knows me will be surprised to see me wearing a tie this evening. But as we're broadcasting, I thought, you guys are worth it.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Got an echo from again.
You've got an echo again.
Looks good. Right. It's good. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know you're probably in the comfort of your rooms or wherever you are. This is the next in the series of the District 91 webinar. And tonight it's the 4 simple principles to increase engagement and grow members of your Toastmaster clubs. This webinar series have been put together by Club Growth Director Florian Bay, basically to help and to educate and to help Toastmasters, especially club officers, to grow clubs, grow their members, and also to ensure that our members get fully engaged as they come to our club. So my name is Wale Oshosami, and I'm Pastor Division Director, Division K, District 91. I'm your presenter tonight. I'm your host tonight. And presenting our webinar tonight is Barry O'Connell. He's the Area Director, Area K31. So Barry, would you like to introduce yourself and let's get on with tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So, good evening. As Wale said, my name is Barry O'Connell. I am the founding president of DB Toastmasters in Canary Wharf, a corporate club. I'm also a member of a community club in the same location, and I'm the area director for that area, which includes now 7 clubs. A few months ago, Wale sent out an email announcing this webinar series that he and Florian had been putting together. I saw the email, and I'm pretty sure within 10 minutes, I immediately replied and said I wanted to be a part of it. I thought that this was an absolutely outstanding idea. As part of the sign-up, as part of putting my hand up, there was a questionnaire. Now, I'm pretty sure I did not say I wanted to do anything on retention, but somehow, between me putting my hand up And tonight, Wale came to me, Florian came to me and said, oh, would you be part of a retention chat one evening? So I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I better go and research my topic. So I used the skills I'd learned in Toastmasters, went and did a little bit of research to find out what the world outside Toastmasters does in the world of retention. Now, of course, I brought my own spin on it. And having just recently, earlier this year, established my own club, I've really been thinking about what is it that I wanted to create? What is it that would keep people coming back? So that's why I'm here tonight to talk to you about retention. Now, there's a few things I'd like you to bear in mind. We have some fantastic technology here. Hopefully it will all work. And if it's not, please do shout out into the chat box. The other thing I'd like you to do is we're going to have lots of conversation. This is hopefully not going to be a lecture. It's going to be a conversation. We're going to have some polls. And because of that, I'm hoping that you will save your questions till the end, because I'd like the chat window to be the subject that we're discussing at the moment. So if you do have questions, write them down on a notepad or wherever and save them up for the end. Wale will then announce those questions to me, and we'll have a conversation about them a little bit later. The other thing to bear in mind is that there may be delays somewhere along the line. I know there's a few seconds at least between me saying these words and you hearing them. So that might have an effect when we're having some of the more interactive parts. So right now, I'm going to sit back down. You're not going to have to look at my ugly face any longer, and we're going to get on with the webinar. I hope you enjoy, and please do participate, have a chat. If you have any questions, make sure you write them down. I'll talk to you, and I'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so I thought, it's Sunday evening. I wanted to kick off with something a little bit fun. So with that in mind, I've actually gone to the trouble of creating a little video. So sit back, put your feet up, get the popcorn if you like, and have a look at this. Phew! He made it! Oh, where's the slides gone? Oh, my slides have gone. Okay. Excuse me while my slides have disappeared. This is going to take a moment, I apologize. So while I'm trying to rapidly re-upload my slides, can you tell what that video was all about? Obviously, it links in a little bit with the title of this evening's webinar, and I hope it gives you a flavor of why I've gone with this theme. Maybe add your comments into the chat window and let me know what you thought and where you think I'm going with this. Good. Have we got any comments? Lions, yes, lions. Success is about trying, obviously, yes, absolutely. But in the kind of context of retention, I wondered if we think about our clubs as a pride of lions. When a young cub goes missing, that lion is never going to grow up to roar. And so I want all of the cubs, all of our members, to grow up exactly, Tariq, to don't lose the younger members. They are the future. The pride are waiting to support you. Absolutely. Lions, like humans, are social animals. And that's why I have the theme for this evening, which is roar. If we stick together, support our new members, support one another, then we will have strong, healthy clubs. So that's where we got the theme. Now the question is, why are we talking about retention? So I want to talk a little bit about why retention matters. What we're looking at now is something called a customer acquisition funnel. So, Andy, who's on our webinar this evening, he's already done some great stuff that I think focuses a great deal about the top of that funnel: awareness, consideration, and conversion. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the District 91 YouTube channel, where I'm pretty sure if Florian has a copy of Andy O'Sullivan's 6-step system. And I don't want to try and compete with that, but I do want to talk about the bottom two parts of that, and that's loyalty and advocacy. Having set up a club myself recently, I was very conscious that I wanted people who joined to stick around. I felt like it's quite difficult to get people to join the club. And if I've got one person joining and then they're leaving really quickly, it's very difficult to backfill that. So loyalty was really important. The second thing that's really important is that a loyal customer will actually eventually become an advocate for your club. And that means that they're going to bring guests. And when they bring guests, that gives your club the opportunity to grow, not just in terms of retention, but by actually bringing in new members as well. So that's why retention matters. And that's why I was so keen to just say yes, research my subject, and get on with it. So I want to talk about what we're not going to talk about tonight. Now, you'll all be familiar with things like the Distinguished Club Program. You'll be familiar with Moments of Truth, and you've got lots of ideas about what makes a great club from those programs. And that's kind of what's on this slide: quality meetings, good communication, where you meet, location, how much you're charging, all of that kind of stuff. We're not going to be talking about that. In terms of motivation, some of you may be familiar with a theory of motivation which talks about hygiene factors. And I think these are the hygiene factors of Toastmasters. That's to say, these are the things people take for granted. These are not the things that keep people coming back. These are the things that if you don't have them right, people will definitely leave, but they're not the things that are motivating them to keep coming back. They're not motivating them to feel loyal, and they're certainly not motivating people to be advocates. So I think these are the cost of entry. These are the things that get us into the game in the first place. And there's plenty of resources that you can look at on how to do those things well. So instead, we're going to talk about ROAR, which obviously is an acronym. But first of all, I want to ask you all a question. We're going to have a poll. And the poll is, how should we treat people in our clubs? And I'm hoping this does not break my slides again. So you should see the poll now. How should we treat people in our clubs? And the options available to you are as customers or as members. Are you seeing that? I'm not. Yes, you are. Great. So how should we treat the people in our clubs? Should we treat them as customers or as members? Obviously, there's arguments on both sides. Our forums talk about membership, but I have heard people talk about treating people as customers as a positive thing. for lots of great reasons. Let's see how many of you have responded. I am actually really interested. Oh, I've got real-time results here, and it's not quite neck and neck, but there's a fair distribution. It looks like it's stabilized. So I'm going to end the poll now, and you should see the results. So as you can see, it's pretty even. We've got people saying we should treat the people in our clubs as customers, and we've got some people saying that we should treat them as members. Now, if you answered customers, then it's likely that you value the focus of customer service and quality. And like I say, I think that's very admirable. But I think it's interesting that we, in our clubs and at other Toastmasters events, sometimes strive to treat members as customers. At the same time, modern businesses are increasingly looking to treat their customers as members. And this is where I want to try and get a little bit interactive. Why do you think that is? I'd like you to post your ideas as to why that is in the chat box. So as we Toastmasters strive to treat our members as customers, I'm noticing that modern businesses are increasingly looking to treat their customers as members. And I want you to discuss in the chat box why you think that might be. What is it that business see in the name member, that they want to treat their customers as members? Don't be shy. So Rohan is telling us that members are informal and friendly. Absolutely, that's true. Wale, of course, members are more invested. If you feel part of the company, group or community will be more loyal. Absolutely, part of the community. Moving away from transactional relationships. Absolutely, Tarek. Part of the same team. Members feel more invested, involved, and have greater influence. Absolutely, influence is an important part of that as well. And being part of the experience. So those are all actually things I came across in my research. And just picking up, I think, on something that Rohan said, the informality. Members are a lot more forgiving than customers. And actually, if you can create the sense of membership in the people you're doing business with, and this applies outside of Toastmasters as well, of course, then you're far more likely to be forgiven small mistakes, because it's like keeping things in the family. So let me move us forward. Okay, so that brings us to the first R in ROAR, which is relationships. Robbie Baxter, in her books, The Membership Economy, she said that people crave membership. Organizations that build their businesses around people's need to belong, to be connected, and to be admired, that are focused on relationships over products, are winning in today's economy. Now, I wonder, can you name any of the organizations who are winning as a result of their embrace of the membership relationship? I'm sure if you stop and think, you can think of a few. I obviously have a few thoughts on that, and I'm going to share just a few of those. So we've got Netflix, Weight Watchers, Amazon Prime, Spotify, American Express, Which, SAP, Kate is telling us. The interesting thing about this is a broad spectrum of types of companies. So we've got finance, we've got consumer relations, we've got music, we've got TV, we've got online shopping, and we've got weight loss, something I've been looking at recently. So clearly these are mega corporations. They've, I think, in many ways changed the businesses that they're in. It's interesting to note, actually, that American Express, who've been around for a very long time, they ran their very first Membership Has Its Privileges campaign back in 1986. Fun fact, I was only 8. I'm interested, do your members think that being a member of your club has its privileges? That's just something maybe to think about. Now, there's one surprising brand who are masters of relationship marketing. And what I'd like to do again is take a quick look at another video. And again, I'm hoping that I can do this without breaking my slides. So we're gonna look at this video. And I actually have some homework for you. I want you to pay particular attention while you're watching the video to how you feel. What does this make you feel as you're watching it? And at the end, we're going to find out what some ladies on Gogglebox think of this very same video.
It's that favourite old decoration that you get out every year, isn't it?
Okay, so I'm going to have to upload the slides. I'm multitasking. I'm a man, and I'm not very good at this. Forgive me, please. While they're uploading, and I have clicked upload already, let's just remember that's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is sugary water. And here we have people on Gogglebox describing an ad for sugary water as being like an old uncle. And Coca-Cola, a big corporation, they know that plenty of that love comes back to the brand and leads to more sales. And they understand that relationship marketing is all about a brand's ability to create an emotional connection with the consumer. Now, the thing is, mega corporations like Amazon, Coca-Cola, they're pretending to have a relationship with us. We aren't really members, and they don't really love us. In Toastmasters, we're not pretending. Our clubs are really run by our members for our members. The relationships we build within and between our clubs are real. And I can bring you up a slide. Sorry about this. Okay, so this is relationship marketing, a brand's ability to create an emotional connection with the consumer. So Toastmasters, we don't have to pretend. I want you to think about, what are you doing to foster a deep sense of belonging and pride in your members? Take a moment right now and share something that you are already doing that fosters that deep sense of relationship that these companies so desperately wish they could emulate. So while you're doing that, something I like to do is I prefer to favor personal one-to-one communication over impersonal mass emails or group chats. Now, don't get me wrong, WhatsApp groups have their place, but real relationships are built one at a time. So that is the R, the first R in ROAR. But what are you sharing about? Yulia, treat Toastmasters as part of the family. Yes, Andy, I know that that's what should happen, but for some reason, the version that got uploaded before that got preloaded, my slides are corrupt and I have to keep re-uploading, and I'm afraid, sorry. So what else, guys? Is Yulia the only person who's having a relationship with her club? Is Yulia the only person who relates to her club as a member? Is there nothing that you guys are doing to relate to your club as a member? I'm curious if Yulia treats Toastmasters like a member of the family. I wonder if she's spending Christmas with her Toastmasters friends. Wale, he pays his dues. Fantastic. I'm not sure how that relates to being in a relationship, but maybe. Andy, we celebrate every new member to make them feel part of the club. Gunther, offering socializing events. Swarajit, also socializing outside of the meeting. And Danny, phone members who have missed 2 meetings. Danny, I think I love you right now. Absolutely smashing it. And possibly a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're going to talk about next. So before we move on to the O in ROAR, I'd like you to share in the chat box how you relate to ghosts. the people who Danny says, people who've missed a couple of meetings. How do you relate to ghosts? So while Jay is saying that some clubs have made cookies. I love that idea. I do like a nice gooey chocolate cookie. Jeff Bezos never sends me homemade cookies. That's true. That's true. I'm not sure I ever sent you homemade cookies either, Jay, but you still came along anyway, thankfully. Gunter, recognizing educational achievements. Absolutely fantastic. People do like to feel esteemed and recognized, and that too is probably a little bit of foreshadowing for something we're going to talk about in a little while on one of the other letters. So the question now is, how do you relate to ghosts? Danny already told us that he likes to phone people who've missed 2 meetings. The thing is with this R in relationships, it's foundational. People remain members of clubs and associations because of the friendships that form, the people they meet. Years ago, I worked for a bank that had a little tagline: the right relationship is everything. And I'd be lying if I didn't admit that that somewhat inspired this part of tonight's webinar. Recognition is great indeed. That is indeed true, Edwin. So the question is, how do we relate to ghosts? Is Danny the only one who's phoning people who've left or who no longer coming along to meetings? Absolutely. So in District 91, most of our clubs seem to be using EasySpeak, a booking system, and following up with those who haven't logged in for a few weeks. That's actually a great idea, Andy. Annalise, you can't contact them to have some news. Absolutely, totally. What would you do with a friend you haven't seen for a while? You pick up the phone, not just say, we haven't seen you for a while, but you'd pick up the phone and say, oh, I haven't seen you since I saw you last time. I received my CC award in the post. I'm so proud. What's been going on for you? I know you were pregnant. Has the baby come along? Is that keeping you away from their meetings? Swarajit, an individually addressed text message. I love you, Swarajit, totally. Individually addressed text message, not just some mass, to everybody who hasn't been along to the meetings. Absolutely fantastic. And Nigel Skinner, his VPN has been very busy to the point where they now have a new VPN. Yes, Edwin, ask them about their well-being and their work. Absolutely. Remembering that we've just been talking about relationships. So it's about what you would do in a relationship. And that is ask about people's well-being, about how work is going. It really is that simple. So it is pretty hard to have a relationship with someone you've never seen or met. In marketing, there's a term RFM. It stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. Now, as Toastmasters, we're probably not all that interested in monetary value. Maybe we are, but we're definitely interested in recency and frequency. How recently were they at a meeting, and how frequently do they turn up? If either of these are cause for concern, then it's time for some outreach, which is the O in ROAR. And that indeed is something that was foreshadowed by Danny, I think, wasn't it? Yes, Danny, who phones members who've missed 2 meetings. So they're looking at the recency and frequency somehow. Maybe Danny would like to share with us how he's doing that so that others can get ideas for how they can do that. Certainly, EasySpeak will give you some insights into that as well. So the next question, obviously, I've got outreach up there, but outreach to who? So I would suggest that the first step would be to track member engagement. Like I say, EasySpeak allows you to see when your members last attended and get an idea of how often they attend. Your members might fit into a typically normal distribution like this. I know that there was a webinar a couple of weeks ago with one of the world champions, and he had a slightly different distribution than this. He was talking about a third of members being less engaged, a third of members being the most engaged, and a third somewhere in the middle. I'm just going to go with a normal distribution. I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe focusing first of all on the 10% who are least engaged in your club. So these are the people who aren't turning up at your meetings. And obviously it's going to be only a matter of time before they decide to let their membership lapse. So call them, like we've said, email them directly using their name and personally. not just a mail merge or something like that. Ask them how they are. Tell them you miss them, which is the next slide. We miss you. Now, I know that all of you on this call are great at building relationships. I know that because you're a Toastmaster, and I'm always impressed by how easy it is to socialize with you, whether it be small talk before a meeting or after a meeting or over lunch at conferences. Now, I will give you a word of warning. When sharing the love, make sure it's not all going to the disengaged. You might also want to make sure that you reach out to the stalwarts who are most engaged. So if we look at this slide again, that 20%, that magical 20% at the top. Now, these are your club champions. They're usually easy to spot, even without needing to do much numerical analysis. You can spot them a mile off, in fact. They're likely to be signing up for their icebreaker very quickly. They'll progress through their roles and speeches very quickly. They'll have their manuals with them at every meeting, and they're always willing to help out. And they just have a glow about them. They seem to love being part of your club. So these members are an engine for growth. So if we remember, we had the funnel earlier. These are going to be your advocates. They're going to tell other people about your club. They inspire guests to join and members to keep coming back. They give up their Sunday evenings to attend webinars so they can learn how to make the club even better, even webinars like this. So what do you do to nurture and motivate these precious members? Share your thoughts again in the chat box. What do you do to motivate these precious members, your club champions? So Gabby is talking about sharing the success of every member, for instance, on Facebook. And I'm not sure what was killing our club. Nigel. Okay, so the two messages together. So the VPN was very busy, and I guess that means that he wasn't having time to maybe do the outreach that we're talking about, and that was killing the club. Absolutely. You know, the only thing I'd suggest is that although it is important to have a strong VPN, and it is important to, you know, to have them have ownership of the outreach program, if we think about our clubs and having a relationship with our club, then outreach is actually everybody's responsibility. And in fact, if we nurture this 20%, and if we create a culture where we are becoming friends and we care about one another, then it won't all just fall to the VPN to follow up on people. So Annalise, absolutely invite people personally to events in relation to their goals. Also, guys, we've clearly got the cream and crop of Toastmasters this evening. Absolutely. We're interested in what people's goals are, and if we can invite them to something that will help them with those goals, then that's really fantastic. Delegate or assign tasks or projects to them. I like that. It sounds a little bit like work. It sounds a little bit like a business relationship rather than a friendly relationship. But I guess you can package that in a way that's going to work. Tarek, make them feel special, good about themselves, shout out their achievements. Absolutely. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I watch that Coca-Cola ad and I feel special. I get tingles. It reminds me of Christmas. I am one of those people, by the way. I love Christmas. And are you creating those same feelings in your members for your club? Recently, I was at a training event, the area director training, and my division director talked about when he first joined Toastmasters, they tried to make Toastmasters the highlight of their members' week. And that struck a chord with me. That's what it's all about. It's about making people feel special, making Toastmasters the highlight of your members' week. So at the end of the meetings, President presents awards. We can share successes members have had outside of Toastmasters. That's a fantastic idea. And share club champions' successes also. Absolutely. It's really important that those club champions feel like they're valued, so that they'll be motivated to continue to be champions. Remember, they're the people who are going to be your advocates. I'm pretty sure I saw somebody in the stream of chat there talking about they're potentially going to be on the committee in the future if they're not already. Absolutely. So a final word of caution about these people. They can be opinionated. Now, Toastmasters, in my experience, are an opinionated bunch generally, but your champions are definitely going to be opinionated. They this is a good thing. It's a sign that they're engaged, a sign that they feel like they belong and that they want to belong. And actually, I would encourage you to nurture this relationship rather than think, oh no, here they go, moaning again. The people who have got ideas, the people who want to improve things, they're the people in that 20%. So coming up, we're going to be taking a look at the A in ROAR. But first, it's time for another poll. This time, I'd like you to tell me your main motivation for remaining a member of Toastmasters. Now, unfortunately, this is only going to let me offer one. You can only pick one option. So what motivates you to remain a member of your club? Pick the option that is most relevant for you, and you can only pick one option. So the options I'm offering are to develop your public speaking skills, to develop your leadership skills, to overcome your fear, to build confidence, or maybe you're just joining and remaining because you want something to do, a hobby, or maybe you're remaining a member for social reasons. And also, I guess some people join for business networking. The club I'm in is a corporate club, so obviously some of that goes on as well. Or maybe you've got a big work, speech, or event coming up, or perhaps you've got an important personal event or speech coming up, such as a wedding or an anniversary, or maybe it's something else. But please do, oh, sugar, I didn't press publish. There we go. I've published that now. So what motivates you to remain a member of your club? The options again are to develop your public speaking skills, your leadership skills, overcome fear, build confidence, or for something to do as a hobby, for social reasons, business networking, for work, speech, or event, to prepare for an important personal event such as a wedding or an anniversary. So seems to be getting some answers coming in. You know, I originally got into public speaking when I was about 15 years old. I got involved in debating in school. And I then took a very long gap and rejoined when I was in my 20s. And I joined a community club. And I really just joined it because I thought it would be fun. But the reasons I joined and the reasons I stayed were different. I got to know the people. I became friends with the people. And so actually people's reasons, people's motivations can change over time. It was something to bear in mind. So it looks like we've had a fair smattering of answers. So I'm going to end the poll and you should, oh, okay, I didn't let you see the answers. Well, 24% of you are remaining to develop your speaking skills, 14% your leadership skills, 10% to overcome your fear, 33% to build confidence, 10% for social reasons, and that's it. But that is, as you can see, quite a spread of reasons. So, which is what I expected, actually. Okay, so I suspect if you've joined this evening, you're in that 20%, I guess. What I want to do is I want to introduce the A in ROAR, and that is achievement. And oh, what? Oh, that was my poll. Yeah, achievement. The A in ROAR is achievement. But to be able to look at achievement properly, we're going to have to learn a little bit about what motivates people. Now, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you may have seen this, it's very well known motivational theory, and we're going to run through it very quickly. So very briefly, physiological needs are the basics required for humans to live. They include things like food, water, and sleep. Security or safety needs, these include structure and order, as well as freedom from fear. Belonging needs are about feeling socially connected and part of a group. Esteem needs are about the desire for appreciation and praise. And self-actualization is all about achieving your potential, and obviously that's going to differ from person to person. Now, again, as a little bit of an aside, you might be interested to know that the Toastmasters website has a Toastmasters hierarchy of needs, which has been adapted from Maslow's. I haven't shown it because I think an exercise that I learned on an introductory marketing course might be a bit more fun. So that's what we're going to do. The exercise is to try to demonstrate how Toastmasters addresses each rung on the hierarchy. So that would be addressing physiological, security, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. So here are my thoughts on that. And I'm sorry, this slide is not as clear as I would have liked. I hope you can see that. We'll talk it through a little bit. So physiological, the only thing I could think of here is the soporific effect of my own speeches. In terms of moving swiftly on, in terms of security, helping people feel confident and prepared for difficult speaking situations or presentations addresses the security need. We also obviously provide a safe environment in which people can learn and try out new things. In terms of belonging, I don't think there's any doubt that there's a healthy, lively and enjoyable social aspect to Toastmasters. And as we've already talked about, the very fact of being a member fosters a sense of togetherness and belonging. And in terms of esteem, does this even need explaining? The feeling you get when someone thanks you for teaching them something in your speech, or tells you how great they thought you were, or even better, and maybe this is just me, but I remember that feeling when I sat back down the first time I'd really cracked eye contact. And then finally, in terms of self-actualization, and here's where things get messy. This is going to be different for each member. As we saw from our poll, we had no one voice in that. We had people answering all across the spectrum. And so how are we going to find out what motivates people? The only way is going to be to ask them. It's no good assuming that because your club is getting educational awards that your members feel like they are achieving their goals. There's a lady who I consulted a lot in my research for this. She's an author and customer loyalty expert. She was checking out of a hotel and she was asked, what one thing could we have done better to improve your stay? Now, she describes questions like this as the platinum question. And I have made a Toastmasters version of that, which might look something like this. What's one thing we can do to help you achieve your development goals? That's the platinum question. What's one thing we can do to help you achieve your development goals? Now, this is constructed in a way that it assumes that there's always room for improvement, which is so in line with Toastmasters values anyway. More importantly, in the context of what we've been talking about and thinking about relationships, when you ask a member this question, it signals to the member that you really want to help them with their goals. It's not about achieving a DCP point. It's about helping them with their goals. It certainly builds the relationship as well. So that, folks, is achievement. The achievement of our members, not your club. Now, so far we've been focusing all our attention on members, and I think that's the right place to start. The last R in ROAR, however, looks beyond the members, but not too far beyond. So tell me, what R lies between retention and attraction? Oh, that's achievement, yeah. What R lies between retention and attraction? So that's a question if you want to discuss it in the chat box. Like I say, we've been talking this evening about ROAR, which is relationships, outreach, and achievement of our members, not the achievement of our clubs. But we're going to look a little bit beyond the member now, not too far beyond, and that's where this question comes up. What R lies between retention and attraction? So I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. The last R in ROAR is reactivation. So reaching out to past members and inviting them to reconnect, bringing them in from the cold, if you will. I'm sorry, I just can't help but share some cute penguin pictures or cute pics generally. Response, very good guess, but not the right answer, as they used to say on Catchphrase. It's good, but it's not right. So yeah, reactivation. It's about reaching out to those people who used to be. So Swarajit is having sound problems. Let me check that out. Is anybody else having sound problems? You could just let me know. Who's talking? Okay, Swarajit, I have another screen on here and it sounds fine to me. So I think that might just be something with your computer. So no problem for anyone else. Sorry about that, Swarajit. You might need to check your settings. So we're on reactivation here. Like I say, this is about reaching out to people who used to be members of the club, who are no longer members of your club. And the metaphor really is about bringing them back in from the cold. Noah Fleming, who's an author of the book, The Customer Loyalty Loop, he says that existing customers are, of course, your best friend and most valuable customers. But your next best friends, or your next best customers, are the ones who are already customers in the past, but are no longer your customers. Now, forgive me using the word customer, especially after having made such a big deal of the word member, but I am quoting here, and I think it's easy to translate. So let's have another question. What do you think it is that makes former members of your club so valuable? What is it that you think makes former members of the club so valuable? So the question comes from the fact that Noah Fleming, author of The Customer Loyalty Loop, says that existing customers are, of course, our best and most valuable customers, but our next best customers are the ones who are already customers but are no longer customers. You know, personally, I know how difficult it can be to get people to come along to a meeting, all the more so when they have never been or have never heard of Toastmasters. So I think it should be a lot easier when you're going to people who have not only heard of Toastmasters, but actually made that conversion decision. They've gone from being interested to joining Toastmasters at some point. So they're already aware of the benefits of membership. It's possible that their circumstances have changed and they could actually rejoin now if you invite them. Those are my thoughts. Tariq is telling us that it adds depth and experience back into the club. Absolutely. And if we go back to that metaphor of the pride of lions, if you're going back out to people who've already been members and bringing them back into the pride, into the club, you're going to get a really healthy roar out of that kind of thing. And Nigel, they've probably got benefit from their membership and can share that value and inspire new members. Absolutely. I think that's really true. And that's why it's on here, 100%. Yeah, Naomi, absolutely. They've benefited from their membership of Toastmasters in the past. Edwin, recommendation power, 100%. Jay, potential reason why they left could be an ideal source of what could be improved. The platinum question, absolutely, Jay. Someone's been paying attention. The platinum question actually is something that we can be asking our members all the time. It's not something that we have to do as part of a particular campaign. At the end of every meeting, the end of every conversation, especially if you're an officer, what's one thing we could be improving? Not just what can I improve in my speech or in my role, but what could we as a club be doing? Obviously, we've got moments of truth, but the platinum question is nice, quick, and can be deployed without any thought or preparation. So in order to invite people now, so we're making a lot of assumptions here. But in order to be able to invite them, we first need to be able to find them. And that means we're going to have to go and look for them. And that means utilizing our club's records, if we have them. If you don't already have a record of who your past members were, I would ask you maybe to consider tracking that from now on. And once you have your list, that's not the end. There's still some things you need to think about before you go on. You need to ask yourself why they left. Make sure you know, because if they left on bad terms, you contacting them might be unwelcome and probably a waste of time. Now, your success in reactivation will be very dependent on the relationship you and your club had with them when they left. So if you were all on great terms and were friends and their circumstances changed, then getting in touch with them will be welcome and it's likely to be successful, or more likely to be successful. But if they left after a big argument and weren't on talking terms with everyone, it's probably best to steer clear. Another thing to consider, I'm sure you'll have been in a situation where you've had a phone call from a company who you used to do business with, and they want your time and they probably want you back as a customer, but they're only interested in making a sale. And you know what they're like. You pick up the phone, they're not interested. They just want to get onto this latest offer, and it's not particularly a good one. I know I have, and I don't like those calls. So if you're going to contact a former member, have something to offer them. That's really important. Perhaps your club is having a social or a special event or an exciting workshop. Consider reaching out and inviting your former members to those special events. Now, personally, I think the launch of Pathways could be a great opportunity to push reactivation. Here's something fresh and different that could genuinely excite and inspire former members, something that they're not already familiar with. And the key here with any reactivation effort is to ask yourself the question, does this add value to the past member, for this past member? If your only interest is self-serving, then it's probably best to give it a miss. It's likely to be as transparent as it is disingenuous. And finally, when you do reach out, remember the first R. A mass email isn't terrible, but it's not going to have the same effect as a personal phone call or a text message. Now, I started off by saying that the right relationship is everything, and if a former member is to rejoin your club, you may as well start the relationship, restart the relationship even, as you mean to go on. So personal invitations are going to have far more effect there than anything else. And finally, don't overdo it. I'd say there's a fine line between reactivation and badgering, but actually I don't think it's a fine line at all. I think it's quite a big line. Reactivation will work if it's personal and you have something to offer. It's unlikely you can honestly offer something new and valuable to former members every month. And overdoing it with reactivations will backfire quickly. It will dilute the power of this approach. This approach works when it's done infrequently and done with a good reason. So that, my friends, is ROAR. That's relationships. They're everything. Outreach is about connecting with your least engaged and appreciating your most engaged. Achievement of your members' personal goals rather than your club's goals is what keeps members coming back. And reactivation is that sweet spot beyond retention before attraction. Before we finish, and I'm running ever so slightly behind, but I will finish quickly, I'd like to say a few words about what to do when your membership retention efforts fail. Now, sad, I know, but it's going to happen for reasons that you can control and some that you can't. Have you ever tried to cancel a gym membership or cancel a phone contract? Even asking the question makes me shudder. Just thinking about speaking with the cancellations team, who are obviously the retention team, leaves me feeling exhausted and makes me put it off. But yeah, I was going to talk about inertia. I won't talk about inertia. So if you can relate to this feeling of being exhausted and not wanting to make a phone call because you know you're going to get hassled when you're trying to cancel, then ask yourself how you would like to be treated instead, and treat your members that way when they're leaving your club. Now, there's no harm in asking why they're leaving. I think Jay's been talking about that in the chat window. Absolutely no harm in doing that. In fact, I'd encourage it, but it's absolutely critical that you demonstrate empathy and thereby leave the door open for your future reactivation efforts. Reacting badly to a member leaving your club is guaranteed to ensure that they're gone forever. Now, before we finish, I think it's really important that we don't just watch this, go to bed and forget all about it. So I want you to think about how you're going to put what you've learned this evening into practice. What 3 things would you do this week to increase member engagement in your club? Now, you might send a personal text message, as has been mentioned by a few of you. You might phone a friend who hasn't been to a few meetings, like Danny, someone who hasn't been to the last 2 meetings. Or maybe just a friend you haven't seen for a while, who's a member of a club. Give them a call. Find out what the member who just finished their CC wants to achieve next. Going back to that achievement, so they've achieved something. What's their next goal? That's something you could do. Or maybe you will personally invite that lady who you got on so well with a few years back, but has since left your club, to your club Christmas party. It's obviously the season for Christmas parties. I know one of them has already probably happened last night. I missed it. But those kind of events are the kinds of things that you can get involved with reactivation. So the question is, what 3 things will you do this week to take what you've learned this evening into the future? This is an important question. I would love to see your answers, because if you don't think about it and then follow up on it, you're just going to forget about it, and you may as well not have attended this evening. It will have been a waste of everyone's time. So have a think, share your ideas. What 3 things will you do this week? So I'm going to pass back now to Wale. That has been ROAR.
Thank you very much, Barry, for that. Now we're going to take some questions. Barry said earlier that we should hold our questions up until now. First of all, you can type in those 3 things which you will do this week to chase that, go after members, what 3 things would you do? Oh, yes, we've got things coming up. And now we can start having the questions. So if you have any questions for Barry on what he has talked about on ROAR, relationship, outreach, achievement, and reactivation.
So while you're thinking of your questions, if you've saved any questions until now, I'm just going to have a look at the screen. I see Andy's got one there where members leave clubs due to changing company or job. We can help introduce them to a new club. Absolutely. That's actually something I have experience of, personal experience. I'm a member of a corporate club, as I've mentioned. We've had people transfer to different cities. And rather than just lose them entirely to Toastmasters, we've put them in touch with sister clubs in other cities. That's a great idea, Andy, definitely. Is that actually something you're going to do, though? Have you got somebody in mind where you can actually do that this week? Pick up the phone, ask them where they're moving, and put them in touch somehow with somebody in the place where they're moving to. So, Wale, at what point do you stop going after members who are paying but not attending meetings? Well, I said I was going to not talk about inertia, but actually maybe that's a great time to talk about inertia. I genuinely hate having to make those cancellation phone calls. And because I hate it so much, there's times when I just put it off. But any company that mistakes inertia for satisfaction is very badly mistaken. Eventually, I will get up the courage, or I might just cancel my direct debit. Now, it's slightly different in Toastmasters, but a member who's not coming is not getting value from their membership. And so I would say never give up on those people. Do everything you can to build a relationship. Years ago, I was a member of a gym, but I wasn't going. To beat the inertia and to beat the sense of not being a member of the gym, every now and then they'd call me up and invite me to do a free session, set some goals, do some personal training. Now, I never actually took them up on the offer, but it made it a lot more difficult for me to go, do you know what? I'm not going, because I felt like a member. So don't give up on people. I really, really think that's important. So Annalise is going to contact some previous visitors and invite them. Where's Annalise? Invite people to the Christmas party. Good job, Annalise. Good luck with that. And she's also going to look more carefully at some previous members. Also a great idea. Danny, use the ballot and evaluation sheets for people to answer the platinum question, then collect their answers. Danny, that's a brilliant idea. Really like it. Angela, ask the members the platinum question. That platinum question, I'm glad you like it. I loved it. It's just so easy as well. It doesn't take preparation. You don't need to do a 1 hour moments of truth. You can literally just go up to someone and say, what can we do to help you achieve your goals? So, Lang T, how about, so maybe Wale, would you like to call out the questions?
Yes, I'll do that for you. Thank you. So Lang T says, how about if we already found out the biggest reason why members become ghosts because their work is too busy? How should we follow up and retain this kind of members who are busy with other things?
So I think that comes down to how we let people go. Do we create a big scene? Do we badger them? Or do we accept that sometimes people's situation in life changes and they don't have time to be a member of our club right now? So I would encourage you, those people who you know that they're leaving, not because your club has done something wrong, or not because they're not enjoying it, but just they have other priorities right now, is to say to them, you know, I appreciate that right now, raising that new child or that new job or whatever it is more important. But we hope that you'll come back. I hope that you'll come back and join our club again. You were such a valuable part of our club. So it's about, I guess it's about knowing the mix of tools to use, not badgering people. Sorry, go ahead, Wale.
Yes, thank you, Barry. So JG says a lot of his friends who are non-members ask, what is Toastmasters? Now, have you got a 2-minute pitch that you could recommend to answer that question?
I don't need 2 minutes. It's on the website. Toastmasters is where leaders are made. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that. Keep your questions coming, please. We still have a few more minutes for that.
So that's Jay who's been asking that question about members. Of course, the best thing to do is not a 2-minute pitch. I really believe the best way to learn about Toastmasters is to come to a Toastmasters meeting. The thing I try to tell people who have not been to Toastmasters is, come along, it's fun, you'll probably learn something that you don't know about already, and I promise you, you'll laugh a lot. So get them along. Don't do a 2-minute pitch, just get them to come along. Do keep those questions coming along, please. Do we have any more questions, Wale?
Yes, we have some members who want to stay members and support the club but never attend. Should we discourage this? That's from Jackie.
Yes, well, an early version of this presentation, the last R was reciprocation. And the reason for that is I was a member, I joined in 2005 and I moved city in 2008. I moved to London and I kept my membership fee being paid. It was set up as a standing order, probably for maybe 6 or 9 months. And the reason I did that was a sense that I had received so much from Toastmasters and I wanted to give back. I didn't mind that I wasn't going anymore. So I don't think we should discourage that. One of our values, one of the Toastmasters values is service. So I think if people want to be of service because they appreciate what they've got from Toastmasters and want to allow others to have that same thing without costing it too much money, I wouldn't discourage it. Once it's a conscious thing and it's not a manipulative taking advantage kind of thing.
So, Sarjit here says, how has there been a webinar? So asking the question if there's been a webinar on mentoring and feels that it's a big part of retention, but hasn't been discussed tonight. So mentoring hasn't been discussed. What are your thoughts on that, Barry?
You know, I agree that mentoring is a really important issue for retention. I think it's a subject that needs its own webinar all in itself. I didn't want to. I didn't think I could do it justice, but also I think it's part of the hygiene factors. I think every club should be doing mentoring. I know that that's not the case. If there isn't a webinar planned, I think it's definitely something I will be looking into. I'm definitely looking into doing something in my own area because a lot of my clubs could benefit from learning the best practices on that.
We've just got a few minutes, so Barry, if you want to round up while I look at
okay, so thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Sorry we've had a few technical issues. I started off by telling you that I don't know anything about retention, and I really don't. But what I do know is how much I love Toastmasters. I do know that I want to make Toastmasters the highlight of my week. And if I were to sum up what this whole thing has been about, it is about making Toastmasters the highlight of your week. It's about building friendships, those relationships. Those are the things I try to do. I try to become friends with the people who are members of my club and beyond my club. It's great to see so many people from all around the world online here this evening. I also take my own advice. I pick up the phone. I make phone calls and I reach out to people in person by name. I send text messages, again, by name and personalized. And certainly in the club that I'm a president of, I like to take an interest in what the achievements of my members are. What is it they want to get and are they getting it? I don't take it for granted that if the club is achieving our goals, they are achieving theirs. And finally, reactivation. This is something I probably, quite honestly, need to get a little bit better at. But having done the homework and asked you to give 3 things, I am this week going to reach out to 3 people who've left the clubs I've been a member of and see if we can't do something to invite them to something special. I hope you've got value from this evening. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this further with me, I would love to hear from you. My email address is tm@barryjohn.me.uk. TM for Toastmasters @barryjohn.me.uk. Remember, take those 3 things, do them this week. Don't wait, do them tomorrow.
Thank you, Barry, for that. Just before we go, we've just got a few announcements about what's coming up next. Next week, Sunday, is a webinar called Using Easy Speak as a Tool to Enhance Club Membership. And that's going to be delivered by none other than Kit Barrett. Kit Barrett is a Toastmaster. He will be joining us from Doha, Qatar. He's a president of Philcom Toastmasters Club in Qatar, Doha, and he's also a member of Basingstoke Speakers. So he's a TV broadcast consultant working with Sony, and Kit worked with Malcolm to develop EasySpeak and continues to support and enhance EasySpeak. Now, some of us may or may not know about EasySpeak, but EasySpeak is the software that allows Toastmasters clubs to automate their meeting planning and to track and support members' development. And this is a tool which is widely used in District 91, and we believe it's also a tool that we can use or get better at to enhance membership satisfaction. So next Sunday, 8 p.m. UK time, here again. So do sign up for that webinar as well. If you have not already signed up, I'll drop the link into the chat box so that you can sign up for this webinar straight away. If you haven't done so, there's the event registration link, which I'm just going to drop in there right now, and you can sign up for the webinar. It's EasySpeak, using EasySpeak as a member retention tool. So once again, I want to thank Barry for tonight. Barry, it's been great having you along, and also to thank District 91 Toastmasters who have made an effort to put this series of webinars together so that we in District 91 and beyond, Toastmasters all over the world, can have another tool in their kit to help with member retention. So there you have, that's the link to register for the next week's webinar. Thank you once again, and good night from me. Barry, you want to say good night if you're still there?
Good night.